Good morning. It's Wednesday morning, and today we're going to read from the Acts of the Apostles, chapter 1, verses 4 through 12. While staying with them, he ordered them not to depart from Jerusalem, but to wait for the promise of the Father, which, he said, you heard from me. For John baptized with water, but you will be baptized with the Holy Spirit not many days from now. So when they'd come together, they asked him, Lord, will you at this time restore the kingdom to Israel? He said to them, it's not for you to know the times or seasons that the Father has fixed by his own authority, but you will receive power when the Holy Spirit has come upon you, and you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem and in all Judea and Samaria and to the end of the earth. And when he had said these things, as they were looking on, he was lifted up, and a cloud took him out of their sight. And while they were gazing into heaven as he went, behold, two men stood by them in white robes, and said, Men of Galilee, why do you stand looking into heaven? This Jesus, who was taken up from you into heaven, will come in the same way as you saw him go into heaven. Then they returned to Jerusalem from the mount called Olivet, which is near Jerusalem, a Sabbath day's journey away. So, here Luke gives us a little more detail. Jesus has, over and over, different versions, he always says, wait in Jerusalem for the Spirit to come upon you. So they're going to wait, and they're waiting. And then he takes them out across the valley to the other mountaintop. Sabbath day's journey is like a mile, so it's not very far. And there he says, go back to Jerusalem and just wait, and you'll be clothed with power. And then he rises up, and a cloud takes him away. And so as the cloud takes him away, then there are two angels, apparently, or some beings, men, standing there who say, why are y'all looking up in the sky? He's going to come back the same way he went away. Now go back to Jerusalem. So they do. And they go back to Jerusalem. And they wait. And they wait. And they probably wonder each morning when they get up, am I different? Do I feel different? Has the Spirit come? And, of course, when the Spirit does come, it's unmistakable, and they realize what happens. But we'll get to that. So, but here we've read Luke's two versions of the Ascension. And if you want to, you could really sit down and compare the differences. They're not terribly different. It's just that in the gospel, he gives us a much more abbreviated sort of reading than at the beginning of Acts. Because in the gospel, he says, if I could find it, he took them out as far as Bethany, lifting up his hands, he blessed them, and then he parted from them and was carried up into heaven. So there's no real conversation. They thought that this was, is it finally time, Jesus, for you to take over Jerusalem? Are you going to ride into Jerusalem and conquer? Is this it? Or are we going to wait for something else to happen? And he's like, no, that's not what's going to happen. See, they're still locked into this political mindset that says Jesus is going to be the next king. And he's going to have to take over and destroy, overthrow the Romans. He doesn't do that, and he doesn't plan to do that. But they don't realize that at the time. And so that's their expectation. And he says, no, that's not what's going to happen. You just wait, and I'll see you later. And then he just floats up in the sky, and he's gone. They expected him to come back the same way, any moment, any time. I read a novel years ago about Peter, some novel, and every time Peter got to a crossroads, he'd stop and he'd spend a long time looking down each road, expecting that Jesus was going to come along from some direction, and he was going to see him again. And, of course, he never did, but in the novel, he was expecting it. And I think that's probably something like what what happened? They expected Jesus to come back fairly soon, and they expected him to be a political conquering leader, and they had a lot of expectations that were not fulfilled. Well, we all do. So they had to wait and learn. That's what we have to do as well. So ponder the ascension, and we will see you tomorrow. Have a great day.